Hello, welcome everybody to the Vaults Remastered. This is my journey, my story, my tale of conversion. Not to some cult or religion, but converting from 5th edition D&D that my campaign world, the Vaults, has been running with for, I don't know, what, 4 or 5 years now? Probably about 5. And I'm converting it to Pathfinder 2nd edition, the remastered version, which is coming out November 2023. I've got lots of reasons for why I'm doing this. So that's really not what this video is about. This video is about you decided to do this, and the first step you took was to blow up your old world, wipe the slate clean, restart it, trash it all. Now, not literally, but figuratively, you are planning on restarting your game with a whole new rule set that has a lot of different options and things that are just not 100% compatible with 5th edition. So you need to start fresh, you need to start over. I made a video last week about this, the whole concept of blowing up your D&D world. So today, what we're going to talk about is, well, what's next? You've broken your world, you've destroyed it, you've wiped it clean, whatever. What do you want to do now? What should you do now? What's the process, etc., for moving forward? So the idea is you're going to recast your world. You're gonna remake it. You're going to take the pieces of your world that remain and put them back together, or better yet, melt them down, pour them into a new mold, bust that puppy open, and see what you have in the aftermath. But before we get into that, I left you all with a cliffhanger in my last video as to how my game world was broken. How did I shatter it? How did I wipe the slate clean? Tabula rasa. And I left you with that I didn't do anything. It was my players that did it. It was that dreaded word, player agency. I gave them so much agency, they used their power and destroyed the world. I just set up the plots and put the flashing red buttons in front of them to press. And of course, they went beep and pressed it and blew it up. So, to get started on the recast, let us take a look at what happened in my game world, because you need to know how your world ended for you to start it over in a recast. So let's take a look at my example for the vaults. So as I mentioned, this game world, the Vaults, has been going on for about 5 years. And I have two different teams playing in this world. One runs on Tuesday and one runs on Thursday. And the Vaults are a analog to the Pathfinder realm known as the Darklands, or the 5e D&D Underdark. And it's a pancake stack of massive caverns so big they can hold entire cities, vast lakes, settlements, you name it. And they get steadily deeper and deeper as you delve into the depths of the unknown. I affectionately refer to them as the deeps. So anyway, this world has been destroyed. Not literally, I didn't completely trash it and you can't go there anymore. No, no, no. I'm going to reuse it. I'm going to recast it. I'm going to revamp it. I'm going to remaster it with Pathfinder's 2nd edition. So, how did it happen? What happened? Well, I gave my players agency, as I mentioned, and they used that to destroy it. They didn't know they were destroying it. I had told them that I was planning to switch our rules from 5th edition to 2nd edition, and I gave them a time frame. I said, "Hey, by the end of September, we're going to end our current campaign as you know it, and that something big will happen. I've got a plan, something that'll make sense for why the game world restarts." And that was pretty much it. So they had a time limit, and they knew something was going to happen. They didn't know what. They were probably thinking I was gonna, have some big old, TNT explosion. I didn't do that. I just let the paths continue, the plots continue, the characters go about their merry way in order to accomplish whatever it was they're accomplishing. However, I knew that if they accessed certain pathways or went down certain directions, that something bad would happen. And it kind of so happens that I put in like 4 possible ways for this to happen. And the world is connected, so the Tuesday and Thursday teams, they exist in the same, timeline continuity. They were just in different locations. So any one event could trigger and affect both the teams regardless. Well, wouldn't you know it, the players triggered all four of the events that I set up. All right. Excellent work, guys. I appreciate your enthusiasm there. So the two teams, one was known as the Phantoms of Ravensward. They played on every other Tuesday, first week and third week of the month. And then the Shadow Roses was my Thursday game, and they played on the second and fourth Thursdays of the month. The Phantoms, they were in a zone, a location, one of the vaults known as the Apocryphal Crypts, and specifically they were in the neighborhood, if you will, of the Witchwoad, a dark, fey, twisted, infected forest that this hag had corrupted. Anyway, within this part of the game world, a character by the name of Ledrith, she was a drow female, a bard, and she was with the party. And her player had alerted me about a month before this had all gone down that she was planning on bowing out of the campaign soon, and wasn't going to be continuing in with the Pathfinder revamp. And so we discussed some options about, how her character would go out. And so I pitched the idea of, would she be willing to perhaps become one of the big bad evil gals of the next iteration of the game? And she was all for it. And so, because each of my players was given an option as I was closing out the campaign of, hey, well, how would you foresee your character exiting? Like, are they going to become a villain, a heroic, character? Are they going to be an NPC? Would they just disappear? Would they die? Give them lots of different options. And so Ledrith's player decided, hey, this would be a cool idea. So I gave her a little bit behind the curtain tour, and there was a dragon primordial, the obsidian dragon Ceritus, which is taken from Wizards of the Coast D&D, intellectual information property, whatever. And it was an entity within my game world who had disappeared, had been banished, destroyed by her king husband Sardior, the Ruby Dragon. And there is some information in the D&D world about this, but I've taken it and revamped it for my game world itself. But long story short, Ceritus, this obsidian dragon, had been essentially torn asunder. Her body had been ruined and stripped of flesh, and just was reanimated as bones as a Dracolich, which now serves the Ghoul Imperium, the Ghoul Emperor, which is a Kobold Press creation, I believe. And this empire is deeper in the vaults. And then her essence, her spirit, her soul, if you will, was imprisoned within a spectral barrier around the apocryphal crypts known as the Veil, and it kind of exists as a shadow dragon, if that makes sense. So these two parts of her had been separated, and the dark, shadowy part was trapped and wanted to be free. Meanwhile, her reanimated corpse was being controlled, deeper below. So she has a lot of axes to grind with Sardior, who's the one who, tore her apart. I mean, she kind of had it coming for what she did. But anyway, that's another story. But she has some axes to grind, and so she's been trying to escape the Veil. Well, along comes Ledrith, this seemingly innocent drow who acquired a cursed sword, a sword of dragon bone, and the holder of the sword was a servant of the Dark Lady, of Ceritus's spectral spirit, shadowy dragon essence trapped in the Veil. And part of this ritual to get her to be free was to have this sword, this cursed blade, uh, drink the blood of one of the Darkul noble bloods, a relative of the Ghoul Emperor, if not the Ghoul Emperor himself. So Ledrith struck down this child, this boy, this the son of one of the sons of the Ghoul Emperor, who was in the apocryphal crypts, up to no good, trying to get some alliances going with the aforementioned hag, and Ledrith slayed him, and that triggered this ritual, triggered this release of Ceritus. But she was just a spirit, just a shadow. She needed a body to inhabit. Well, guess whose body was chosen? Ledrith's body. And so the fusion of these two entities, Ceritus, this primordial, dragon, and Ledrith, this innocent and perhaps not so innocent drow female bard, was reborn as Lara Dress. And this event is quite significant because it's going to lead to, spoiler for any of my players, a militant crusade. Lara Dress is going to be one of the big bad evil gals of the Pathfinder 2e game. She's not at full power yet, but within the world of the vaults, there are no gods really. The gods are all from the surface, from the heavens, and exist in the cosmos, and seemingly only care about the people above, the vaults themselves. The vaults are kind of cast-offs. There are, and the entities living there that are of divine origin are known as primordials. These would be like the children of the surface gods or the gods of the heavens. They would be perhaps the primal energies of this world, or what's left over from the creation of the world. So Lara Dress, who is Ceritus, is one of these primordial entities, not at full power, but most of the primordials are either dead, imprisoned, banished, or lost. So her reappearance within the realm of the vaults is going to be a major deal. She's not going to have competition. There's very few other forces that will be free and as powerful as she is. So as she gains new power, new followers, new prayers and worshipers, and her temple is raised again, she will become more and more powerful. And by the way, the picture in the upper right corner, that is my reimagining of Lara Dress, a fusion of obsidian dragon with a drow Ledrith female. And by the way, that image was generated by Stable Diffusion, one of the AI art programs that's out there. And I know a lot of people have controversy with the AI art, people stealing other people's creative works and making them their own. I'll say that was not any intention of mine. I simply gave the prompts for this obsidian drow combination, and after many iterations, this was the most one that was what I was envisioning for what this new primordial would look like. This half draconic, half fey elvish, beautiful female, seductive, dark creature. So that is Lara Dress. And so she, moving forward, will be launching some sort of militant crusade. As I mentioned, she has axes to grind, and she wants followers. So anybody who gets in the way of that is going to have a problem. She also wants to bring down tyrannical rulers who were dominating the old world of the vaults. So that is one of the events. That in and of itself could be some sort of apocalyptic event, some sort of cataclysmic event as her energy, her force, her power grows, and her followers, her cult begins anew. Speaking of her cult, one of the other players decided to join her when she gave the party a choice. Join me. You know me, I'm Ledrith, but now I'm more powerful than ever. I am Laradress, and I will raise you all to be my champions, to defeat all the enemies that, were trying to keep us oppressed here in the vaults. One of the player characters, one of the other ones, decided, yep, they're gonna go for it, and so they are a champion of Laradress, and that was the monk in Oriad, which is a Pathfinder race or ancestry, kind of like the Earth Genasi of D&D. And so this Oriad female, she was an escapee from one of these tyrannical organizations known as the Fist of the Stone Tyrant, which was being dominated by an evil earth genie that served the big bad evil guy Ramb of the current world. and many of her people were imprisoned within his militant, monkish monastery order. And any of those who were too weak were cast out, were slain, essentially tossed aside as too weak to serve in this monkish order. Anyway, that's again another story, but it ties into the next event, which was Quintrus's sword, which is going to be the equivalent of an alien invasion. These equivalents, these analogs, militant crusade, alien invasion. This goes back to my previous video of, hey, how do you blow up your world, and cataclysms, you know, apocalypses are the way to go. So these are a couple of common pop culture sort of things, or historical types of apocalyptic events that I'm drawing upon. So anyway, the other one is Quintrus's sword, which is going to trigger what amounts to an alien invasion within this game world. And that is the image represented by the upper left corner here, because when Ceratus's energy was freed from the veil collapsed, and the veil was securing, was locking down the entire apocryphal crypts, not allowing anything to escape or enter unless it had some sort of magical keys to get in or get out. And so there was another sword from a dead PC from several episodes or sessions earlier. Quintrus, he was a shard mine. Shard mines are, I believe, a fourth edition construct, not a construct, but a humanoid of crystalline origin that ties into a vast celestial gate, which its job was to protect the world, protect the cosmos from aberrations, cosmic horrors, Lovecraftian, themed far realm things, right? Stuff of your nightmares. Similar concept in my game world, except that the shard mines are being hunted by the leader of the big bad evil guy, this tyrannical organization was the Black Earth Cult. This guy named Rom, he is one of the shard mines, and he has been hunting and capturing all the other shard mines because they act as the bricks and mortar for recreating this gate, which in my world is known as the Gate of Aetheratus. And so Rom has been snatching up all these shard mines because shard mines are not born, they awaken, and they awaken when another shard mine dies and their essence teleports or travels to wherever these dormant shard mines, these just crystal lumps, are lying within the vaults, and they awaken, and over a period of weeks, months, they regain the knowledge of their predecessor. Well, anyway, Quintrus died within the apocryphal crypts, but his essence could not leave, and he possessed a sword. He was one of the white crystals, the diamond type of crystal, clear crystal shard mines, and they are the holders of these blades, these sacred warrior weapons, and kind of like if you think like Pact of the Blade Warlock or like a Hexblade Warlock almost. So anyway, his essence transferred into his sword, but the sword couldn't teleport, it couldn't leave, so it was stuck here, and it was in the possession of that monk character I was just talking about. And it was communicating with her telepathically, urging her to take it to see this other guy within the crypts that supposedly had the power to reanimate Quintrus. However, there was, of course, there's a however, the blade is actually possessed by not just Quintrus's own consciousness and all the consciousnesses of the preceding shard mines, but Quintrus himself had been infected with an illithid mind flayer brainworm larvae. How exactly that worked didn't really matter, other than he was infected with it. And this evil consciousness, the elder brain consciousness of the mind flayers, were the minions of these aberrations, these Lovecraftian horrors. And this faction of illithids has been trapped here within the vaults for thousands of years. Another story. But anyway, the blade is now possessed by both of these consciousnesses, and there's a fight within it for dominion, for control. And currently, the illithid essence consciousness is in control. and it wanted out. It wanted to get itself out of the crypts in order to infect potentially Ram, but it wanted to get to Ram so that it could infect and destroy the living gate, because that was the gate of Aetherotis, which Ram is currently rebuilding to reseal the far realm and trap and lock away the elder gods, these cosmic horrors, once more so that they can't get out. But of course, the Illithids, the mind flayers, are the minions of these creatures, and so they are attempting to break it open, right? And allow their daddies and whatever creatures to get through. So the fact that the veil was dropped when Laradress was reborn, Quintrus's sword was able to make its move. It was able to teleport away. And it has arrived at Ram's location in a shallower vault. And of course, Ram, seeing a new shard mind essence appear, wanted to fuse it into his machine. His gates, the gate of Aetherotis, he is currently rebuilding, and that would be like uploading a virus to a computer system, and it immediately attempted to corrupt the gate. The gate is, unbeknownst to players, has been fractured, and Ram, being the leader of the Black Earth cult, he's not dead, but he is sorely weakened and partially defeated, which is going to cause the collapse of the Black Earth cult, which is the main tyrannical rulers that had kept this game world in check for the decades now. And this has allowed far realm portals to begin opening around and throughout the vaults, and emerging from them tentacled creatures, the vanguard, the forerunners of these elder gods, to come and destroy this world, destroy the cosmos, annihilate everything once and for all, because the elder gods did not want this world to be created. The gods stole their power and the creative spark, the spark of creation, and have ignited all these worlds. So they want to destroy them. They want out, and now they have been given the key. They've been given a ticket. Again, all thanks to the Phantoms of Ravensward and their agency. They made these decisions. I just put the switches in front of them. That's the Tuesday crew. Then the other thing that's happening, so again, that's a huge cataclysmic event. You can imagine all these void portals, these far realm incursions, these alien cosmic horror influences beginning to seep into the world. That is going to cause massive change in just reality, which will help me explain why things are new in the Pathfinder remaster version of my game. And then that is topped only by what the Thursday crew did. The Shadow Roses, they were in a different vault known as Old Town, and they were specifically investigating a mega dungeon by the name of Ivaforth Hall. And beneath Ivaforth Hall, this ancient repository of knowledge, which has fallen into ruin, which was built by the Gem Dragonborn, for which Cerides and Sardior were rulers and leaders of. These Dragonborn had built this old repository, which is fallen into ruin now, part of Old Town, and beneath it, the Dragonborn had discovered an even more ancient structure known as the Nebulon, which was a alien starship originally piloted by the Slod. Those are these amphibious creatures, which again is a 5e D&D creation. But these aliens were here to terraform this world millennia ago. They had been defeated by the dwarves of the time, known as the Jiren. They had a big, vast empire. They were technologically advanced. Think Eberron, style, or maybe Numenera as another example. Again, I borrowed heavily from several different game systems and lore. So this advanced dwarven civilization with their allies, the Aarakocra, who had come from the plane of air, a whole different world, and they fought off this invasion, this terraforming attempt, and the Nebulon crashed and was buried deep beneath the world, and has lain there for millennia. But it has been rediscovered. It's rediscovered by the Dragonborn, who were using its technology, its power, in order to raise this new city that they were building, which ultimately decayed into Old Town. It was known as Tal Tabila. But the party, the Shadow Roses, they discovered the Nebulan for themselves because they were seeking some of this ancient technology that was beneath there because they were being guided by our next big event, Nexus. Nexus was the arcano intelligence that the dwarves of the Duran Empire had used to control their gear forge, their constructs, their mechanical men, women, whatever you want to call them, that had helped them expand the empire and guard the empire for generations. And this AI went mad because the empire itself was collapsed. The empire was destroyed from within as the Durgar, who were the main, workers down in the depths that were the ones bringing up all the resources that the Jiren, the highfalutin leaders on the surface, were taken advantage of. So the Durgar kind of got sick of that and engineered the apocalyptic end of the empire, asteroid impact. Another story. Anyway, the Duran Empire collapses. Its cities literally get swallowed into the earth. That is what destroys part of the Dragonborn's kingdom that's below the earth, the Gem Dragonborns. But anyway, the Arcanal intelligence, now without its controllers, its masters, its dwarven, living inputs, goes mad. It's trapped deep beneath the earth, and all the people that it used to talk to are no longer functioning. So it goes insane. It goes crazy. And it had the name the Cadmus. But the Cadmus was trying to find new things to inhabit, to talk to, and so it began to infect whatever these vaults creatures it could encounter. And one of the groups it infected were, I believe it was the Darklings, or the Kalini as they're called in Pathfinder. And this group of infected Kalini managed to get into the Dragonborn city. They were, welcomed as, refugees of disaster, that kind of thing. And the Dragonborn were trying to help all these other people to survive and rebuild civilization after this disaster of the surface cities falling through. But anyway, this arcano intelligence, this Cadmus, infecting these organics with little micro nanite machines, little clockworks, and taking them over and turning them into drones. Your analog here would be the Borg of Star Trek world. And so that picture in the bottom right corner is giving you an image of what Nexus would look like. Nexus is one partition of Cadmus that remained trapped beneath Ivorforth Hall in the Nebulon, in some sort of magnetic containment field where the Dragonborn had sealed it away because it was so dangerous. They had to lock it down using this alien technology of the Slod ship, and seal it away what they thought forever. The Dragonborn, of course, have collapsed into, almost like wildness at this point, a shadow of where they once were. So this Nexus, this Cadmus, was been long forgotten about. However, most of the Cadmus has actually been recovered by Rom, who is using it to run his Gate of Aetheratus, that machine. Again, that's another story about what's going on there and what happens when Quintrus's sword fractures that machine. That's Pathfinder 2E remaster game. That's going to be coming out in some of the events. No spoilers beyond that. But anyway, a small chunk of it, a partition known as Nexus, survived, and it is trapped within beneath the Ivorforth Hall in Nebulon. And so when it encountered a member of the party, a gear-forged paladin by the name of Onyx, it reached out to it and told it could help this gear-forged bring back one of its fallen comrades, a Svirfniblin druid by the name of Ondos, who perished delving Ivorforth Hall. And of course, being the dutiful paladin and believing Nexus to be another Gearforge trapped deep beneath Ivorforth Hall and needing rescue, Onyx bravely led the party ever deeper into this mega dungeon to free Nexus and was successful. However, Nexus was still insane, and this had been all part of its nefarious plot to escape captivity. And so, as it was released from its magnetic containment, it decapitated Onyx and stole its body. It needed a new vessel to crawl its way out. It is this kind of spider-like entity, but it was basically just a head with some, arms, and it needed a physical form. And Onyx was the perfect carrier. It was a paladin. It was divinely powered somehow by some of the ancient, knowledge of the dwarven people. So Nexus, recognizing how special this Gearforged paladin was, wanted its body, leaving behind just the head, which was rapidly losing power and going offline. Nexus escapes to regain the rest of Cadmus. It wishes to rejoin the rest of its collective intelligence. Again, it's only one partition of many, and it needs to go find the rest. And it is now seeking that in the Pathfinder game. So we have a robot apocalypse on our hands. The Nexus is assimilating various constructs and organic biological creatures using its nanites to build an army of drones to go and reclaim Cadmus, which it knows is part of this living gate. Of course, the other events have taken place where the living gate, this gate of Aetherotis, is now being fractured and infected by illithid mindworm consciousness. So exactly how that's going to shake out in the Pathfinder 2e world, I don't know yet. But I was gifted with the birth of yet another big bad evil gal. I think Nexus is kind of a female entity in my head, but not exactly. It's, I guess, androgynous. But anyway, another big bad evil thing has been unleashed by a different team, and this thing is slowly assimilating and spreading itself, corrupting people, and it can change them, full scale into, cyborgy looking things, or it can just take control of their mind and leave it as a seemingly normal humanoid on the outside, but connected by Nexus. And Nexus is slowly building its power, regaining as much as strength. It is in hiding currently, but its nefarious plot is continuing. So that is happening. And then the other and final, fourth and final event that was triggered by the Shadow Roses as well, they pressed the proverbial red flashing button on something known as the Zeus drive. This was a part of the Nebulon ship that one of the players accessed because they were attempting to help their allies. Their allies, while they were trying to free Nexus, were being irradiated by large amounts of warp energy that was seeping into this containment area where Nexus was being stored. And so one of the other players gained access to some of the ancient ship's controls and was able to see that the energy could be diverted out of this area and stop poisoning her allies and transfer it to one of three other possible locations she identified in the ship. And two of the other locations were perfectly safe. You could have just dumped the power over there and no big thing. But I knew if I put the right carrot in front of this character that they would go for it. And so what I said is, oh, there's also another location known as the Zeus drive on this display, and you also notice there are biological organisms in this area near the drive, and from what you can tell from the readout, it's the slot. It's because some of the slot had been in stasis, but had been reawakened by the activities of the party and other delvers and such, etc., and we're currently trying to rewire the ship and repower it up so that they could restart their colonization, their terraforming project. And so the leader of these slod known as Azu, he was a blue slod, and he has servants of Zolgath, which are like subterranean troglodyte reptilian lizard folk, if you will. It's Zolgath is a Pathfinder creation. So this group of savage Zolgath worshiping this Azu as a god, we're trying to help it uncover as much of the ship and rewire it and rework it. So the player sees this group of potential enemies deeper in the ship, right where the Zeus drive thing, whatever that is, and it could just send the power down there. And so it had the genius. She had the genius idea to fry the enemy down there, right? Of course, why not? And I'm like, okay, sure, you can do that. And sure enough, boom, sends the juice, the warp energy down there, which fries the enemy, but fires up the Zeus drive, which is a what is it? It's El Cubier machine, a faster than light travel, light speed travel engine, a chaos engine, and it creates a warp bubble, a chaos bubble of energy, and allows ships to travel through the void of space by essentially allowing it to travel partially through the far realm and then emerging out the other side. High tech stuff, sci-fi stuff that the slod would have mastery over. So anyway, triggers this. Big old bubble of chaotic energy emerges and starts to swallow the Nebulon, Ivyforth Hall, Old Town, etc. The party running for their lives to get out of there. It's this just bubble of Vanta black, utter darkness just starts spreading and is uncontrollable because the players don't know how to shut it off, right? Starts to swallow everything. And the Old Town Vault is located beneath the Vault of Pedestal, which is where the Black Earth cult, these Durgar and Ram and everybody else is dominating, the game world, and begins to swallow and collapse the ceiling of Old Town's vault. That begins to cause the city of Pedestal, this massive city, like it would be equivalent to Grackelstug in D&D game world, Underdark City. And that city begins to fall and collapse into this void, this bubble, this utter blackness. What's on the other side? Don't know. You're going to have to go tune into the Pathfinder 2e remaster to find out. But anyway, it requires the sacrifice of an NPC that is allied with the heroes a while ago, a young sorceress. She is she's got like some sort of shard mind horn embedded in her skull as her source of power. She's really not sure what it is, but she has this powerful luminescent light energy ability, and she sacrifices this energy to create a stop, a roadblock to the spread of this bubble of darkness and chaos as it's growing. And her energy serves as just a little pinpoint of light within this black sphere that has stopped its spread, or has it? It is still slowly seeping. Think nuclear meltdown catastrophe, some sort of Chernobyl event, right? This is something bad that's happening, and it is spreading its energy ever so slowly. But it's this chaos energy is just warping and twisting the reality of the game world. Again, this helps me to explain why are we seeing new classes, new backgrounds, new ancestries, and all the stuff that Pathfinder 2e brings that D&D 5e doesn't, and you can't just one-to-one convert over. So this is going to help explain to the players why the game world is now different, why the game world has been reset. And that is where the recast starts. So the rest of my discussion here is going to be, oh, and by the way, the bottom left picture here is also kind of representing what this bubble looks like as it's bending and twisting and sucking Ivyforth Hall into it. And those bottom two and the top left pictures, those are generated by Neural Love AI. That is a different AI art system. So that is where those came from. And again, just not me trying to rip off anybody's art. I fed a prompt into these AI art systems, and this is what it came up with, what it generated, and it fits my vision. So again, not trying to step on anybody's creative artistic toes. So hopefully this is just a completely unique set of images here that you haven't seen before. Okay, so rest of this is just going to be what am I doing with the recast. So let's take a quick look at what are the advantages of recasting. We've blown up the world. I've just told you how my world got blown up. Now we're getting into we have to recast this world. We have to restart it. What does it look like? Why, what's the advantages? So let's, before you just go, oh, I'll just redo my old world and leave it alone. You could do that. That's perfectly fine. You could completely blow it up and transport your game world to a whole different world if you could do that. I'm not doing either of those. I don't want to say I'm going down the middle with it. I'm recasting my world, but I'm going to use this as an opportunity to retcon a lot of the things that I didn't like. So any problems I had for my fifth edition game, anything that I screwed up or did wrong, I can now fix it. Stuff that I forgot to do, like locations, maybe. Oh man, I wish I could have done it. Or, oh, I should have, could have, would have. I can redo all that now. I can retcon everything. I have a fresh start. I got fresh, brand new characters. I got new locations. I've got locations, old ones that I'm revamping. I've got new events happening. I've given you a couple of spoilers on that. I have new antagonists. I gave you a couple of those with Laradress and Nexus. I've got brand new plot threads going on here, right? This whole alien invasion thing from the far realm, the whole seeping chaos energy bubble of Old Town growing and growing and letting its energy out. So I've got all these things I can take advantage of, and I'm gonna take advantage of it. So that's the beauty of a revamp, of a redo. Okay, I can retcon. Now, what is the steps? What's the process? Well, it's kind of the same thing as what you did in the first place. And just to kind of give you an example, I have my way of doing things on the left, based upon some themes and fiction, but just as a guide from the game mastery guide from Pathfinder on page 40, there was a section about campaign design, and they go through the process of how you would design a campaign. So I'm kind of in that baby stages right now of what is this going to look like on the other side of these cataclysms, of these catastrophes, of these apocalyptic events. So depending on what sources you're going to use, I've given you Pathfinders. I know the DM's guide has one for D&D as well, although I never really found it super useful to be honest. But so the one here is kind of what I wouldn't say I followed Pathfinder's version. I was thinking of my own methods first, and that's what I have on the left. But I did throw the Pathfinder version on here in case you wanted to see a different thing, and I will reference back and forth here. But anyway, your world's destroyed. You've decided it's a good idea, and you're going to take advantage of some of your retconning. So what should you do? What's your step? Well, what's your theme? With my game world, I have some theme ideas already based upon what I just told you happened. So depending on what happens in your game world, what ended it in the first place will help you decide on your new theme. What is the big struggle that's going to happen in your remaster? I've given you a couple of things that are happening. There's going to be more, and it's going to tie into a grander theme, which I'll showcase in a minute. But the one thing to remember, we're dealing with this post-apocalyptic fantasy world, okay? So magic's still a thing, divine interventions are still a thing. This is a survival, grimdark environment, etc. But it's post-apocalyptic. Something bad has really happened that's changing everything. So that has to affect the dynamics as you move forward. It shouldn't just be, oh yeah, this thing happened and we don't really need to worry about it. It should be the driving force. And so if we look at just some common themes in fiction, these tie into the stuff that the Game Mastery Guide's talking about here, threats and motivations. All right, so here are your common themes that you could find in just fiction out there. So there's the classic good versus evil. You got life and death struggles. You got love and hates going on. Power and control. That's definitely something that is going to appear in my game. Freedom and confinement. That's another one. And so for me, what I'm taking is I'm gonna start with some of these concepts here of fiction. I'm gonna take some of the game mastery guide thoughts, and I'm applying it to my game world. And so I have to sit back and think for a second before I really lock into a theme that's going to drive everything. Is I have to understand what is the conflict and why is it the conflict. I need to start thinking about who are the opposing forces. Who's fighting who? What do they want? What are their motivations? That is definitely questions you need to have answered. And then the other thing that you want to think about is what are the stakes of this conflict? If somebody wins, what's the stakes? What are they winning? If somebody loses, what happens? And what about the people on the sidelines and the people caught in the middle, the innocent bystanders? what do they get out of it, or what happens to them, right? So we have this conflict that's happening between two powerful forces. They don't necessarily have to be the same strength either. It depends on what you're trying to do. Now, for me, how I'm doing it, again, I'm going to go to the vaults. I'm going to go to my game world. What am I doing? My theme I'm going for, and you probably were clued into this already, is chaos versus order. So we've got chaos on one side, and I've already told you some of the chaotic events that have happened. Far realm incursions. We've got Nexus creepy crawling and spreading nanites throughout the camps. You've got Laradress bringing, some sort of army together, some sort of cult following together to sweep across the vaults and right the wrongs as she sees them. You've got this spreading bubble of literal chaos energy in Old Town, and maybe stuff's coming out of this bubble. Maybe stuff's getting sucked into the bubble. Maybe the energy that's seeping out is corrupting things. There's lots of things that could be happening. Chaos versus order. The one area I haven't really gotten into too much is the opposing force, order. What is it in my game world? The one thing I know for a fact that is definitely around. There were already organizations that were order. The Black Earth cult was, even though they were evil, tyrannical, they were a force of order. They were structured. That has been cracked at this point with the collapse of parts of the city of Pedestal or Grackelstug that they controlled, and the fact that their leader Rom is defeated by when the Quintra's sword teleports over. So they have a lot to answer for. And then you have this rise of a different primordial because the Black Earth cult has been preaching belief in their primordial Ogremok, the again, this is a D&D reference, but the primordial of earth, eternal strength, unchanged. Meanwhile, now you have Laradress emerging, this whole new entity that is there, whereas Ogremok is still imprisoned and the Black Earth cult was trying to free him. So that is another issue that's going on here. And then order is also going to be found in the Rod of Law, which is I believe this goes back to Greyhawk. It's another D&D creation. But the Rod of Law is a thing. It is what originally defeated Chaos millennia ago, way back when, this world was I don't want to say getting created because this was after that. But anyway, the world had been created, and in the aftermath of the collapse of the Dren Empire and the dwarven cities being swallowed into the depths of the world, forces of darkness and chaos emerged, and that was, the chaos I'm referring to, and it required the Rod of Law and the sacrifice of many of the most powerful of these Aarakocra in order to defeat chaos, and the rod was shattered at that point. However, the rod, spoiler, is present in fragments beneath the world in these vaults, and it is really what's drawing chaos in, because you can't have one without the other, right? But anyway, I've got chaos and order all ready to go. I need to flesh out the order stuff a little bit more, so there's going to be some rebirthing of factions that will represent that. But anyway, I've got conflicts, survival, limited resources. I mentioned that. I'm going to have these warring factions, right? If resources are limited and you have the sudden infusion of not just these chaos forces, but now you've got perhaps pedestal forces, the Black Earth cult coming down into the Old Town vault where these secret camps were hiding. There's going to be definite conflict. There's going to be battle for control over whatever resources are left, especially if the resources are being poisoned by like chaos or far realm, aberrant activity. There's going to be lots of suspicion. You're not going to like outsiders, xenophobia, tribalism. What's mine is mine. Get out of here. It's not yours. So all those things are going to be fueling this chaos versus order within my Pathfinder 2E remastered game world. And then I have to look at the stakes in my game world. Ultimately, chaos wants to be free. It has been imprisoned since being defeated by order, by the Rod of Law, this sentient artifact that was under the control of those powerful Aarakocra champions. And meanwhile, order wants to reestablish itself, of course. For instance, the Black Earth cult, they're not just going to, let people go. They're going to want to reestablish their control of the world. And so we're going to have agents of both of these forces acting overtly, covertly to be successful. They want to win. And then this is where I'm at now. Like, well, what are the win conditions? How does chaos win? What does that look like? If order wins, what does that look like? So those are the things I'm going to have to flesh out as I move forward with my remaster of the game world. And where I'm going to kind of leave us today is with the conditions, the spoiler, the where are things going. So how does chaos win? How does order win? I have constructed this new remastered game world to have threads of chaos, plot lines, if you will, woven through the setting, through this theme, throughout the vaults, and win conditions or loss conditions are going to be tied into these threads. Exactly how, I don't know yet. That's what I'm going to need to consult with my muse again, Chatty Cathy, Chatbot GPT, to help figure it out. The first four threads are the four I've already talked about: Laradress, Quintrus's sword, Nexus, and the Zeus drive, the whole chaos bubble. Those have been triggered. They're spreading. These threads are moving. But there's four other things that I haven't mentioned at all that are still lying, and they've been in the game world since before these events in the first place. But they are also threads of chaos. So my concept here is there are these 8 threads, and something happens that if all 8 get triggered or manifest or go to completion, uh, chaos is released somehow. I don't know. Does it take all 8? Because if it does, that's pretty easy to stop. You just stop one and game over. So I don't think that's going to work. Nor do I think you have to stop all 8 in order for order to be successful. I don't know. But there are 4 untriggered events. There's a group known as the Stone Serpents. They're attempting to awaken something known as the Sleepers. Exactly what that is something to discuss. There's another entity known as the Hungering Darkness that is consuming psychic energy currently. And if it regains its full power, that's going to be bad news. You've got a group of creatures known as the Verm. They're my version of the Skaven from Warhammer. These rat folk. And their leader, an invoker of their plague god. They're spreading disease, of course, and if they perhaps ally with another disease spreading primordial that is currently lurking in the depths of the game world, that has unleashed some zombie spore plague, last of me style disease. So perhaps if the two of these groups ally, or learn, the Verm Invoker learns how the fungal primordial did this insidious fungal zombie thing, that could unleash a plague of chaos that is unparalleled. And then there's one other group, which I did mention already. There was the Hag from the Witchwoad. She is one of the 3 sisters I'm referring to here, and they are aware of the Rod of Law, and they wish to get hold of at least one, if not all of the pieces, because they actually on paper would be good guys. They want to stop chaos's spread. They are aware of its movement. But one of them kind of wants to be the good guy and wants to use the rod and allies from other people in the vaults to fight chaos. Another one wants the rod and wants to use it to exterminate the other people of the vaults, because it sees them as the carriers of chaos, and if we just cleanse the caverns of their presence, this would all go away. And then you got the third one, the one that's actually in the Witchwoad area. She is looking to get a fragment of the rod itself to actually control chaos itself, to battle chaos, and wants to basically fight fire with fire. So those are these 8 threads that are rolling through my game world right now, or will be rolling through. Exactly how that works, exactly how there's a win condition, a loss condition, that remains to be seen. And that is the topic for our next session here, our next video that I'm going to put together, which you'll have to tune in next week to see. So if you're interested in what I've been talking about today, you want to see more of this, go ahead and subscribe and like and do all that cool stuff with YouTube videos that you do. And take a look, keep your eyes out, waiting for the next installment. I appreciate you coming along for this little ride here and listening to my brain seepage. Hopefully you got something out of this video, uh, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace out.